Right.
Like if you were handed a math problem and it was 1 + 1 and I wrote 6, that would be wrong.
Right.
It'd be very clear cut. Whereas like in the entrepreneurial world, it's a lot of times it's not clear what's right or wrong. You're gonna have to make the decision and you'll find out if it was right or wrong.
Before we get started with this episode, we have a major favor to ask you.
If you could subscribe, like, and comment, especially with somebody that you'd love to see on the show, we would really appreciate that, and it would be amazing.
This helps us more than you know. In fact, once we hit 1,000 subscribers, and that is our goal, we are going to choose 2 of you to come to our very first Shoreline Show meetup with our team and our past guest.
And if you want more of the Shoreline Show, you can get on us on all the major audio podcast platforms.
Now, let's get on to the next episode. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shoreline Show. Today, we have a special guest. His name is Kevin Camus from Launch Kit.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it sounds like a fancy name there. I like it.
I know. It's a lot to live up to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Super excited to have you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
You guys got a cool spot in the world here.
Thank you.
You did an awesome job decorating this. Got the sound panels up, artwork, everything.
Yeah. Had to make it like legit
Sure.
if we're gonna actually do a podcast.
And make
right?
it official. Yeah.
I'm a huge nerd to like any sort of like office space or like interior design.
Yeah.
More so like how the space influences conversations.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I love studying like what Steelcase is doing, like Herman Miller, Hayworth, like all like the furniture companies about how they like design different spaces for different things. So like
Right.
you guys laid this out in a way where, we're sitting here talking, but we're not at like a traditional conference table. It's more like casual space.
Yes.
Right.
So you guys nailed it.
Well, you see it sometimes. You'll go into restaurants and they'll have amazing food, but the space doesn't help the
Sure.
environment whatsoever. I think restaurants even do that really well. Some of them pull it off, some of them don't,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah. And some of them have great design, but the food's terrible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, there's
So-
a lot of restaurants I can think of like that I would go to just because I like the atmosphere, but don't necessarily, the
Right.
food's okay. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Kevin.
Cool.
Like, who are you?
It's a pretty broad question.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start way back. Like, where are you from
Okay.
and what were you like as a kid?
I feel like I still am a kid.
Well, that's great.
you
That's
and me
awesome.
both.
My name's Kevin. I'm from Jupiter, Florida, actually, just outside of West Palm Beach. And we moved to Michigan in 2013 when I was a freshman in high school. It was a really weird time to move because I moved and I went to Rockford.
Okay.
Huge school. Did not know a single person.
Yeah, that's a big
Rockford's
school.
a beast.
Yeah. Luckily, they had the freshman center. So it was like
so it's
just
a little
freshmen.
bit smaller at
Yeah.
first. That's nice.
So I wasn't like getting beat up by seniors,
Yeah.
which was cool. So
Yeah. Gave you a chance to get to know some people before you moved up to the high school.
absolutely. Yeah, so we moved here, family business. My family's owned Alpine Golf Club on Alpine Avenue
Well, that's
for
kinda neat.
30-something years.
Nice.
My dad was a golf course architect, so he would develop golf courses, get them up and running, and then sell them. Mom was she's involved in the operations too. She does all the food and beverage side of things.
Oh, so she helps still go into a golf course and kind of help
Yes.
to establish that. That's
So
interesting.
your question was the entrepreneurial, where'd it come from? That's 100% the answer.
mom.
Mom and dad just together, like
Yeah.
watching them like do their thing.
Yeah.
I don't think I really realized that when I was like in my teenage years. But now, as I've gotten in my 20s, I've definitely realized like, wow, this is where I get everything from. But yeah, they were always in on stuff together. We actually lived in Virginia for a little while too. They did a course in the Blue Ridge Mountains, Charlottesville, right by UVA. That one was kind of cool because you ever heard of the movie Evan Almighty?
Yeah.
So that was filmed on one of our courses that we were developing.
Really?
Yeah, so they actually
That is so fun.
built that arc
Right on your golf course?
Yeah, that part was like going to be like neighborhood and like houses, so it was
Yeah.
all like development anyways. It was
Yeah.
all dirt. So they literally built that arc.
Is
and
it still there?
No.
Okay.
It's a huge development community now.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
was that like a pretty big arc?
Oh, this thing was massive.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Was it the?
That's pretty cool.
So they have that arc experience down
Yeah, it's
in.
nowhere near
oh,
that big though, I guarantee it.
But did they build it as big as like the true arc?
I mean, yeah, this thing was big.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably look up like Evan Almighty like arc construction. I'm sure pictures would come up on Google like,
Interesting.
and they brought in 2 of every animal.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
did
Yes.
they really?
I swear to God.
It was like.
Did you
northern?
see it?
Oh yeah, there's like pictures of like me with like elephants and like random animals.
Are
And,
you
like,
serious?
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
is so
and I was
fun.
a little kid at the time, so I was like, "This is the coolest thing in the world."
That
Yeah.
is insane.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
And they like built like fake. I feel like I shouldn't give away all the movie secrets how they do these things, but they built like fake houses.
Yeah.
That like was like Steve Carell's house, like where he like lived, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's crazy.
So that was a cool experience. But anyway, so yeah, that was time in Virginia. It was really fun. But anyways, yeah.
Do you think that helps stem your creativeness today? Like watching them do that? Because as a young kid, you're how old at 12, 11 at this time?
Yeah, during that
And
time.
you're
yeah.
watching all these people do all this crazy wild stuff. Like these are
Yeah.
just people, right? Like we like to watch it and think sometimes, oh, it's just TV.
Yeah.
And you're watching it not just TV. It's like the real deal. Like
Sure.
people are doing this. I would think that would inspire you a little bit.
Yeah, I think honestly, a lot of like the like origins of creativity come from my dad's creativity.
Right.
I remember when I was a kid, he would always have our dining room table and we'd never be able to eat at it because it was always covered in tracing paper because he would draw out golf holes.
Oh.
Like as he was like laying out the course and like houses are going to go here, clubhouse goes here.
Right.
So yeah, he was like super creative in that sense.
Nice.
But yeah, they'd get them up and running and sell them. They sold that one in Virginia. It was called Old Trail. Now it's a pretty cool development community now. But yeah, so
Very
they got rid of
cool.
that one. Alpine was still in the portfolio. So
Yeah.
we had a family vote. It was, we voted if we wanted to stay in Florida or come here, and we voted to come here. I was a little
That's
spooked.
cool.
But
Which I find very interesting. Like, do you want to stay in Florida or
Yeah.
do you want to come to Michigan?
Michigan is beautiful. Though.
It's beautiful,
100%.
but it's cold in the
Yeah.
winter.
yeah, that's why snowbirds exist. Like,
Yeah.
they got
Yeah.
it figured out.
Yeah,
Like, you come up
exactly.
here and then you go down there. Like, they got it dialed in. Like,
Right.
no need to fix what's not broke.
Yeah,
Right.
for real.
But yeah, no, I moved here. I immediately got into skiing and snowboarding, and that was
Right.
kind of like my like thing to do during the winter. I remember going to Canonsburg and like taking ski lessons, and like that's how I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, like kind of like career path wise too, because Canonsburg was one of the first places I actually ever worked. I was on the park crew there.
Yeah.
So we were the ones that would like build all like the jumps and like the rails and
really?
stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, like my friends did it, and that's kind of how I got involved. So I did that for like 2 years, and then I was starting to get interested. To be totally honest, I was never that good at snowboarding, so I started being interested in photography.
Okay.
So instead of being the good snowboarder, I would bring my camera, and I
Okay.
would shoot photos. And then like that was like my in, like with the friend group kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I started shooting pictures. I was on park crew. It was a cool job. It was fun. Like I got to like
So
learn
that
a
was
lot.
kind of your first transition into making content.
Yeah,
Capturing
100%.
moments.
Because
So-
that's what you do now with
Yes.
LaunchKit. So tell us a little bit about LaunchKit.
That's a big time jump to go
Okay.
from that to launch
Yeah.
kit. But
No,
basically, I was on park crew. Like I was paid to
Yeah.
shovel snow. Like I was not paid to do anything photo related.
Yeah.
And
Are you doing it with like a GoPro or what are you doing it with?
no, I got a Canon T3i.
So you're like carrying this big thing around as
Oh
you're.
yeah. So I would
geez.
do my like shift. And I was on the clock, like doing my shift, but I would bring my camera with me and just like shoot photos.
Okay.
And I would send them to the snowboarders. And eventually, like some of the management team like saw them and was like, "Hey, these are kind of cool. Like, can we post them?" And then it was like, "Hey, these are kind of cool. Like, what if we actually like paid you to shoot photos instead of being on park crew?"
Sure.
And I was like mind blown
Yeah.
by the fact that somebody would pay me to
To
shoot
do-
photos.
yeah.
Like that seemed like something I would do for free.
Right.
So I basically like stopped doing park crew shifts
Yeah.
and would just shoot content, which was really cool experience. It was like my first like professional like creative gig.
Right.
It really opened up a lot of doors in terms of like getting other gigs, just from learning the skills of shooting photos and videos. And then that basically, I did that through going into college. I went to Grand Valley.
Okay.
And during my time in school, I never did a internship. I went to business school, so I studied marketing and general management.
At Grand Valley?
Yeah, Grand Valley.
Okay, cool.
And I never did a traditional internship. I always did freelance projects. So I was either like shooting photos, videos, then I got into like the design side of things. So graphic design, think like logo design, basic websites. I was kind of like that guy. Like I was like the creative guy.
I need something and I know you can do it kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, I was doing it for beer money, help pay rent, earn some few bucks here and there. It was fun. It was really cool. I got to like learn a lot of skills, which I learned would become valuable down the road.
Yeah.
And all this time, Alpine was still in play as well. I got really involved in helping run the family business. I kind of took over the marketing side of things initially.
Which makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a plug and play at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I credit Alpine to being a huge source of where I learned a lot of the skills.
Right.
I talked about Cansburg learning like the photography stuff. Alpine's where I learned a lot of the web design, social media marketing. It was a great sandbox.
Right.
Like I'm incredibly thankful for having that opportunity to learn those skills
Yeah.
in a real world setting.
Right, because most kids that go through those programs don't have that opportunity necessarily unless they get an internship.
Yeah.
Right.
And if they get an internship, they're not there from the very beginning actually building it from scratch.
Yeah.
They're coming in and somebody's saying to them, well, I need you to do this and this and this.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of piecemeal. They're not really actually developing something from the ground up.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point.
And I think it's fortunate too, because I think internships are nice for the sake of when you're an employer, the first thing you're doing is you're watching every dollar that person is either making you or breaking you. But being your parents' business, they're more about their son learning things, so he can be creative. It's not, and I think it's the same thing with internships. It's like you're paying them not as much as you could, if anything. Yeah. And you can say, okay, yeah, I know you're learning this, but why don't we try this just to teach you? And I don't care if it really is profitable because you're cheap. And in this case,
because you're cheap.
Yeah, well, it's true. Right now, you're cheap. You were cheap labor for 100%. Your parents. So your parents are like
free labor.
Yeah. So your parents are like, yeah, I can teach you other things. Try some things. I don't care if you spend a day doing this because it's not costing me anything.
Sure.
Let's be honest, right?
No, you're spot on. That was Alpine was in a position where, to be totally transparent, we were not doing good.
Okay.
Business was very much struggling.
Okay.
Things needed a lot of work, and we didn't have
the resources,
money to be able to go hire a marketing agency to do what we needed.
Right.
I could see kind of what we needed. And I'm in high school at this point, so I was starting to see what we needed. I was somewhat familiar with social media.
Frustrating to you a little bit.
Super frustrating.
Because you're like, I think I can do this.
It was, I think I can do this. I was like, companies do this. We can't afford that. Like, we're already losing money. The last thing we need to do is go spend more money. So it was kind of like that, like back up against the wall, like opportunity to learn. So I basically went to YouTube University on like how to do web design, social media stuff, and honestly just started like kind of chipping away at it. I remember the website was one of the first things we like had to tackle. We had a web designer who just like really couldn't ever get a hold of. It was bad user experience per se, and we desperately needed to update the site. Yeah, and so that was kind of one of my first projects, was like learning how to like build a website.
Right.
Pretty basic site at the time, but it got the job done. It had our greens fees posted and the golf shop phone number, and that's how we were able to generate revenue. Yeah. So we did that, and then we started really leaning into a lot of the branding side. So doing some new logo design, color palette, figuring out where our position was in the market, and then carrying that out throughout social media and the website. So this was like during like my time at college. Like I said, I never did the internship. I was doing Alpine. Really learning. It was like a sandbox, basically. Really learning all these skills. Everything I could do was better than what we were doing before, because we weren't doing anything before. So me learning for
only
free.
Go up from here.
Literally.
Yeah, for real.
So I was doing Alpine. I would do like family and friends freelance projects, photography, videography, graphic design, web design stuff, and was just amazed that people would pay me for it. And I think I initially started finding fulfillment from it because I felt like I was making a real impact on these businesses. If I would make something for a local landscape company, like I would see it make a real difference.
Well, what's amazing about it is how much of that is still, how many people don't understand that world on any level. Like I got a friend that they own a business and they do really well with it, but they have zero online presence. You look at, they don't have anything whatsoever.
Sure.
It just consists of driving to trade shows.
Okay.
And they sell their product at trade shows, but
Sure.
if you were to try to find them online, it's almost impossible to
Yeah.
find them online. So it's interesting that like there's still businesses out there.
Oh, there's a lot of them.
That's like, they don't have anything. You would never even know how to find
That's
them.
kind of who I initially started like connecting really well with, was like I would come across all these initially, it's small circle family friends, businesses that they had, great business models, and they'd been
Right.
around for 20 years, but they just hadn't ventured out yet into that digital world.
Right.
And I felt like I could bring a lot of value, when we would do, logo design and colors, and they actually had the right files that then they could do
Right.
graphics. It was like it opened up a whole new world.
Right.
So I got so much fulfillment from doing that
Right.
that I honestly just like kept doing it and never got the internship. And senior year came around. I graduated from Grand Valley in 2020.
Okay.
So it was like, I remember I was on spring break when COVID began. So my last semester, senior year, was like the first online semester.
Then the digital world opened up.
Yeah. So it was a really like
Instantly.
weird time to finish up school, because I
Right.
was really involved in business school.
Right.
I was on the board of the American Marketing Association, so I was really involved in
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I did
So
that.
what's that like?
That was an organization. So it's a nationwide association.
Yeah,
the
I've never
American,
heard of it.
It's called the American Marketing Association, and they have chapters at different schools. And so when I got into business school sophomore year, I'd heard about this club, basically. Actually, it was because I sat next to the president in one of my classes, and this guy had it all together. Like, this guy was the man.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like, who is this guy? Like, what does he do? He's actually one of my good buddies now. His name's Dan. But yeah, so I thought Dan was like the man, and Dan was the president of the AMA. And he's like, oh, I'm the president of the American Marketing Association. He's like, you should come. And I was a freshman at the time, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And he like put me on the email list, and I never went because I was too scared to go. It was downtown at the business school. I was a freshman, and I was like,
Yeah.
this isn't for me. I'm too scared.
Yeah.
But finally, sophomore year, I decided to go, and I went, and I was like, okay, wait, this is really cool. Business organization, a lot of like guest speakers, company tours, panels, workshops, that type of stuff. And at the very end of the first meeting, they were like, hey, like, we're looking to bring somebody on to shoot photography.
I've done this
You're
before.
like-
My ears lit up, and I was like, oh, I got this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go like introduce myself.
Yeah.
So I walked up to the board afterwards, and I like introduced myself. I was like, hi, I'm Kevin. Like, it's my first event. Like, I'm really excited to be here. You mentioned that you guys were looking to bring on a chair position for photography. I have a background in photography. I'd be interested.
Yeah.
And I like submitted a portfolio for it, and they went through like 2 interviews, and they brought me on board for it.
Nice.
So basically, I was a sophomore, and I would shoot photos at all the events.
Yeah.
So I would just always bring my camera with me, and just shoot
But you
photos.
already had a passion for that.
Yep. And I wasn't getting paid for that one, but now I was like in the school business club, and I was
Right.
like, okay,
Which
like,
is huge.
You were learning a ton.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and now it was like applied in a professional setting.
Yes.
Because like Canonsburg was like hanging out on Ski Hill with the boys, like
Right.
shooting ski photos, like way
Yeah.
different environment. Whereas now we were getting to do like business development, business professional
Yeah.
events.
Yeah.
That I was the photo guy.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. That was a huge door open to be able to do that. And so I did that sophomore year. Junior year, I got elected to do all their social media. So basically, I would still shoot the photos, but then I would also manage the accounts. And then senior year, I was the VP of the association.
So at this time, you're still probably doing all that for free?
Oh, yeah.
See, I think there's a huge, again, it goes back to, I think working for free
Yeah.
is a good thing if
Yeah.
it's something where you know you can achieve the goals for your future that you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely.
Because I think that joining that is probably slingshotted you into your future.
Oh, 100%. I learned a lot from, so we had a board of probably like 8 to 10 of us, and I really learned how to work as a professional team. Because Alpine and Canonsburg, they don't necessarily have that. You know, they don't have like meetings and like professional team type stuff,
Right.
where you got to make like meeting minutes and, you know, agendas and calendar stuff. That world didn't exist. So being on the board of the AMA exposed me to that. And learned how to, you know, be prepared for things, be on time, work as a team, you know, get your action items done. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed, you know, being a part of the team, leading the team eventually. It was a really cool experience. I mean, I would highly encourage, if anyone's in college, you know, listening to this, like absolutely go to that meeting, because it turned out to be worth like more than any part of Grand Valley. Was the AMA.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. All because I decided to get up off my butt and go.
Exactly.
I think sometimes those clubs are that way because they have to bring value because it's an optional thing. They have to bring the value to the table of what they're trying to do. I mean, for me, I find a lot of value in, I'm a member of the Grand Rapids Economic Club. Have you ever been there?
No, that's on my radar. I have some LinkedIn connections that always post about it, and I'm like, I want to be in that room.
You definitely want to be in that room. It's a room where you learn a lot. I have a lot of people go. Like, I'm always pushing people to go to this, go to this.
Sure.
But you just learn so much there. It's above whatever you could pay at college because you're sitting down with some pretty key players. I mean, you're talking about. I mean, you sit down with like some of the.
The movers and shakers.
The movers and shakers, right? I mean, there's billionaires in the room, right? And there's no assigned seating. So for me, my goal is always kind of like you did, is you walked right up and talked to them. Like I go right to the front, sit right at the front tables with those guys, and I think that you gain a lot just like sitting, talking, having a cup of coffee, and you know, talking to them.
What's their event schedule like?
It's every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And you go to, it's typically at the DeVos place.
Okay.
The hotel.
Yeah.
Not the DeVos place. What is it?
Amway?
Yeah, not Amway, the other one. DeVos.
Yeah. Where like all the conventions are?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's the one
the hotel.
Like,
not the Amway's the Amway, and then you have, it's called the DeVos place, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's where all
the Marriott, JW Marriott.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
It's at the JW Marriott. So then there's a ballroom there, and there's typically like somewhere between 600, 700, 800 people there.
Wow.
But people, you know, they dress up. It's usually I mean, and they'll bring people in from the governor to the owner of Patagonia. I met there. The owner of Chicago Cubs was there. That was kind of a cool one. So and then they don't really have security around, so you can go up and actually talk to these guys. Like, you're just like, hey, and it's not. Sometimes you have to wait 3 or 4 people, but you can go and just have a conversation. So it's definitely if you like that kind of thing. I would call myself an economic nerd. Okay, that's kind of like my game, and that's what I like. I like economics. I love learning what the world's doing, why it does what it does. So you learn a lot from that here, especially hearing directly from those people. Like, okay, this is what's going on in these companies, right? Which is huge, you know.
I would definitely be interested in going to that. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to look into more.
Maybe we'll have to exchange numbers next time I go. You can go with me. I'll take you as a guest or something. That'd be cool.
That'd be fun. I started going to Grand Rapids Chamber stuff. And I've gotten a little bit like exposed to that. And I've loved it. So I'd like to keep doing more of that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because it's like, I mean, it's like the AMA. Like you made the effort to go. It was optional. You didn't have to go. It's totally on your own time. But you went, and you enjoyed the benefits from it.
Right. Yeah. So it's cool.
Yeah. Back to AMA stuff. Yeah, that made a huge difference. I'm very, very thankful that I went to it, and it was an awesome experience. So
how long after that? Like, so what happened when you got out of that? You were involved in that. Yep. Were you out of it once you got out of school?
Yeah. Once you graduate, the next board gets elected, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. So when spring 2020, that ended, school ended. Pretty much the world ended at that point.
Seriously.
Yeah. So how did you make that transition then? So you graduated from school. We're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yep.
And you've got your family business that you can do, but like.
Well, that's shut down.
How did you get in? And a golf course, was it really shut down?
It's not essential, so it's shut down.
So, no companies were hiring.
Right.
Everyone was on hiring freeze.
Yep.
B, my friends that did have offers lined up, half of them got either postponed or dropped because everything was frozen. Yep. And I kind of was just still doing my freelance thing. And I found people that needed website updates.
Yeah.
With COVID procedures.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's smart. Okay.
That's smart. I had think like 3, 4, 5 like friends, family connections
Right.
of people that needed this at that time.
And you can do it all from your house.
And I had the time to do it.
Yeah.
And, I'd get paid a few bucks to do this. And I was like, wait
Yep.
a second, I didn't want to sit on the sidelines
Yeah.
while everyone else was out of work. This was my way to like be working, making money.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would do, I had a
Nice.
few like website gigs to get me going.
Yep.
Get a few bucks. I had, school ended. I moved back to my parents' house. So I had very low overhead.
Yep.
Was making a few bucks off doing the websites and some graphic design
you.
stuff.
Right.
The golf course stayed open for a little bit longer than most businesses. We had to play the game of like, at first it was like, you have to have the doors of the clubhouse open. And then it was like, you can't sell food and drinks. Then it was like, you can take golf carts, but you got to have the divider in between people.
Oh, gosh.
And then it was
That's
like, no
insane.
golf carts, you have to walk. And we stayed open for that even. We had people like show up and everyone walked and it was a good time.
Yeah.
Eventually we did shut down for a while once it came to that point. But
Yeah.
so Alpine was closed, but I still had my website and graphics gigs going.
Right.
So I was making a few dollars, learning a lot more. And I was good about, basically I would do a project and then I would make a nice portfolio piece and put it on my own website so that the next time somebody else inquired, I was able to show this portportfolio piece.
This is what I did. Yeah.
And it really was like a snowball. Like
Yeah.
one essentially led to the next one.
Right.
So it was websites, logos, graphics, photos, videos were like my core services.
Yeah.
It was 2020. I lived back to my parents' house.
But you probably weren't doing a ton of video at that time.
No, that was not a ton of video. So the video side of it, one of my best friend from college, my roommate, still my best friend, helped me start the video side of it. He would film all the videos, package them up, and then I was kind of the business guy and would sell them. So that was kind of like the origin of LaunchKit, was
Yeah.
us doing that.
Yeah.
We would,
And that was what year?
that would have been like the fall of 2020, 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had...
So tell us what LaunchKit is. What
Okay.
do you guys do?
Yeah, so in the simplest terms, we're basically like a membership-based marketing agency. So we have 3 primary memberships. We have a web membership, content membership, and a graphics membership. So think when your business joins one of the memberships, basically LaunchKit becomes part of your team, and we're activated to do that role. So, for example, if you joined as a web member, we would design, develop, host, maintain, and run your website for you. If you joined as a content member, we would shoot your content for you, either 1, 2, or 3 times a month. We'd edit it, we'd run all your social accounts. And if you're a graphics member, we basically make all your graphic design collateral. So that's what we do
You're right.
today.
Yeah.
It definitely was not that in the beginning. It took
Yeah.
a long ways to develop that business
Yeah.
model.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that's
So that's a really new business model to me, hearing about a membership
yeah,
type of thing. So how did you come to that?
sure. So
Was it just like necessity with the times that we were in? Because I've never heard of a marketing
Yeah.
membership model.
neither
So-
have I.
Yeah, like that's kind of ingenious.
Yeah, so at first I was doing things like much more traditional. So
Yeah.
like basically like I would build the website, you'd write me a check, I'd hand you the keys to it, and we'd kind of go our separate ways.
Right.
We'd do the same thing with photo video. Frankie would shoot the video, we'd package it up, we'd hand it over, they'd write us a check, we'd split it. That was like the origins of it. And basically what would happen with the websites is after I deliver it to them, like 6 months down the road, they would call me and they'd be like, hey, like I need to make some updates to the site. Can you add this page or do this? Or how do I do this? And then I was always like, all right, like I either gotta do this pro bono and like just take the hit and just do the work. Or I gotta be like your lawyer. And like the second you call me, it's, $100 an hour.
Right.
And I didn't really like the feeling of either of those. I didn't want to give away my time because I could tell that wasn't sustainable.
Right.
And then I didn't want
To overcharge them for something that they might not need.
because a
or
lot of the
whatever.
stuff was really simple. But those things add up over time.
Right.
So it got my wheels turning to think about, how could I reevaluate this and sell the website in a different way, where instead of it being a short-term transactional transaction? How can it be a long-term relationship? You know, what if we rethought about it? You know, LaunchKit by any means didn't invent websites. You know, we just reinvented the way they are sold. You know, Uber didn't invent the taxi. Like, that had been around for a long time. They just came up with a new way to sell it. And it's done quite well. So
the name LaunchKit's starting to sound. I'm putting together the name now. It's a kit, right? It's like, this is what you do. My brain's very systematic. I like organizing and packaging things up. So we use that terminology a lot inside the business. So now we have a pretty healthy membership base. I think we're sitting at 72 active members total across the different memberships. So that's kind of, the web membership was the first concept of how could we reevaluate the way websites are sold. And at this time, it was just me. Like, it's pretty recent that we've had team members. So in the fall of 2020, I got an apartment downtown Grand Rapids. I moved out of my parents' house. I was making like barely enough money to afford this apartment. Like, I was fully leveraging myself to get this apartment. And I just kept telling myself, like, if I like put myself in the environment like this, like, I will. It's true.
Find opportunities for success.
Yes.
And so I did it. Like, I was like, I could barely afford the rent. I don't even know how I got approved to get this apartment. But anyways, got the apartment, moved downtown. I had no furniture in it. Because when I moved out of my college house, I realized that all the like gross furniture that was in my college house was not what I wanted to like move with me. So I like literally had nothing in this apartment.
Mattress on the ground. Kind of
thing. 100%. And then I had like my drone and my camera and my laptop. But I had my spot. Like, I had projects to do. Like, I was like, there was only one way forward. And it was just to keep getting projects. So I kind of kept doing my thing. I would build the websites. Frankie would shoot the video, we'd package it up, we'd sell it. And we ran it like that for quite a while. And then I had the concept for the web membership. And I started getting really lonely. To be honest, like, I would literally just sit in the apartment and build websites. And like, maybe I'd have a Zoom call with a client. Like, that was like the highlight of my week. It was also like COVID times. So downtown was dead. I would go on like 2 walks a day, just like hoping to like interact with somebody. Because otherwise I would literally just sit in that apartment all day. I didn't really have any money to like go to like do anything. So I would just kind of stay there and just kept working. And realized that while I love what design and content can do for a business, what I was really passionate about was bringing together a team. I wanted to be the business guy, basically.
You wanted to be a part of a community.
Absolutely. And bring together people that were specialists, per se. So I had a few conversations with a friend of mine at the time. His name's Michael Bova. He was LaunchKit's first team member. I kind of told him what I was doing. He's like, "Oh, this sounds cool. Like, I like the sound of it." And he had a graphic design background. So I don't know how I convinced Michael to do this, but somehow he quit his corporate job and took a leap of faith to do this with me on an hourly paycheck. And
that's pretty cool.
He went for it, and we, had a few graphic design projects to do. I just remember we had like no office at this time. So like, I remember he showed up to my apartment.
With like, nothing in it.
I had a little bit of furniture.
Oh, you started to get some stuff?
I had a desk, I had like couch, I had like the basics. It's a 1-bedroom apartment, so it wasn't too much to furnish. But he showed up there, and like we kind of just started like, all right, like, what are we gonna do today? And I remember thinking, I was like, God, like, what are we gonna work on? Like, we don't have that much work to do. And I think that's one of the tough things about entrepreneurship is there's no clear sign in the sky when to do something.
That 100% true. I mean, you're just walking. You can do nothing. You can sleep and watch Netflix all day long. Or there's a world that is endless. So what one do you pick? And so then you're sitting here like, okay, we have nothing to do, but there's a whole world out there of things to do. I get it. I think every entrepreneur battles that same exact thing. And it's like, I know the answer is not doing you can't do nothing. So
Sure.
you better do it. So then you start to just kind of try things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's because like you think about times when you were in school or if you were an employee at a company, there usually was a right answer.
Right.
Like if you were handed a math problem and it was 1 + 1 and I wrote 6, that would be wrong.
Right.
It'd be very clear cut. Whereas like in the entrepreneurial world, it's a lot of times it's not clear what's right or wrong. You're going to have to make the decision and you'll find out if it was right or wrong.
Well,
Right.
I think one of the things that you learned, and I think that it's you didn't give yourself any options when you bought that apartment. Or not bought, but you got the
Yeah.
apartment. And I think that that's where you're like, okay, you have to do something.
I have to succeed.
It's
Yeah.
burning the boats, right? Like it's
I
that burning
love-
the ship story, right?
I love burning the ships.
Right? You know that story, right?
I don't think so.
There's a whole song, and it's actually a true story where they, I forget.
It was a explorer, Cortez,
Yeah.
and he had his ships, and they were, I think it was an island that they were going to.
Yeah.
I can't remember the year, but they had to take this island, and
Okay.
it was full of
I mean, they were
tribe.
outnumbered. They were
They were
outnumbered by a
outnumbered
lot.
by the tribal people that were there, and they had to take over this island for some reason. So the people on his crew on the ships, he didn't want his crew to have any options to go back to the ships.
Sure.
He wanted them to have like no option except for to succeed.
Yeah.
And so before they left the ships to go to the island, he
Told them to burn
ordered them to burn the ships.
Got it.
And then when they went on land, they had no other option except for to take this island.
Yeah.
And so I'm all about burning the ships.
Well, it's the story of America, right? Like when they originally dropped the first settlers off here, they literally sent what was it? They sent the boats back, like the Santa Maria or whatever it was. What was the name of those boats? They
Mayflower.
Was it the Mayflower? And they're like, hey, yeah, you can. They just sent them back, so they're
Yep.
stuck here. And they're like, and I think it was like,
There's no way back.
there's no way back. They're like, we're gonna make it here one way or another. I think they struggled, but they figured it out.
Mayflower, me sitting in the apartment, very similar situation.
Seriously though, there is some truth to that.
Absolutely.
You're oh crap, I don't
Yep.
want to be a failure. I have to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
So-
especially, yeah.
Doing nothing, but like I said, Netflix, not an option.
Sure.
We're gonna do something. I don't know if it's cold calling. We're gonna do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
what
started
was
chipping away at it, and I the big decision I struggled with at that time was I was back and forth. Do we bring on Michael, or do we get an office, like a small office space to be able to conduct business out of? And that was like the big decision I struggled with, of like which one do we do first?
Right.
Because I was like, okay, what's the point in hiring a team member if you don't have anywhere to go?
Right. What comes
however,
first, the chicken or the egg?
100%. That saying makes so much sense now.
I can argue both cases.
Oh,
Yeah,
I had
exactly.
lists of pros and cons for each. Because if you hire the team member, now you have the opportunity to generate more revenue, which will actually get it so you can afford an office.
100%.
We're dealing with that all the time. Every day we deal with that.
Yeah.
And that's why when you do have money, you have to make sure, when you do have an opportunity and there is an opportunity in front of you, let's say you have a few bucks, every decision matters.
Sure.
Like what you spend it on matters, right? Because
Absolutely.
it's either the life or the death of what you do,
Sure.
right?
So that was my first, I remember that was my first big, what I felt like was a big decision, was Michael or office.
Yeah.
And Michael was all on board for going for it. So Michael joined the team, no office space.
Yeah.
Went to the apartment. And it was really interesting timing. Sometimes when you make the right decision, I believe good things come. Michael came on board. We had a series of projects come in the door that literally within 2 months, we had enough cash flow to be able to get an office.
Did he feel a lot of responsibility there?
Yeah.
I'm sure he
Yeah,
did.
we had a few
'Cause
big
he
projects.
wasn't a part owner with you. He was just
Just a team member, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a big project. It was our biggest branding project at the time. It was a tech company downtown. It's called Iris Technology. The logo's now on a building downtown Grand Rapids.
Right.
But yeah, so they're a AI startup here in town.
Nice.
Really cool technology what they're working on. But yeah, so anyways, we came on board to do their branding.
That's pretty
It was a
cool.
big project for us. So that was a lot of source of
What was it like in that apartment when you found out you got that?
I remember Michael and I went to the meeting.
Borderline crying, probably, type of thing.
It was really interesting because we didn't actually know why we were going there. One of the founders had messaged me on LinkedIn saying like, hey, like we're interested in some of what you do. Like, could you guys come by here? And I was kind of just excited to go. So I didn't really ask too many specifics about like, what are we talking about? And I remember I like got in the elevator to go up, and the receptionist at the time was like, oh, I'm so glad you guys are here. Like, been wanting to make some like t-shirts. And I was like, t-shirts? Like what? Like what are we doing here? And then anyways,
we don't make t-shirts.
We like kind of get a tour of like what they do. Like we start to get a little bit of feel for it. And we sat down in a conference room, and these are some of the sharpest guys I've ever met. Like even to this day, like these guys are wizards. Like business side, tech side, these guys got it dialed. And they kind of start telling us about what they're going to do. And it's just me and Michael in the meeting. And we're trying to learn like, okay, what is it like we're here to do? And then eventually we kind of piece together that they want logo design. So yeah, we literally went back to my apartment and like made a proposal. Just completely made it up mostly. The project ended up going phenomenal. It was awesome. It's a killer thing to have in our portfolio. We're very proud of it.
So is your logo on that building downtown now?
Yeah.
That's
it's pretty
cool.
Yeah, it's Iris Technologies. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a very simple logo. It lines up with their core values really well, though. So something we're definitely really proud of.
Sweet.
And yeah, so Michael was on board. We got the office. So it was Frank, Michael, and I at the time. Really interesting space. It's where we still are now. 89 Ionia Avenue. It's downtown. Really? It's really interesting. It's actually like a retail storefront style office.
Okay.
It's pretty small. It's only like 600-700 square foot.
That's all you really need, though, right?
Frontage on Ionia Avenue, so we like have our own front door, which is a really unique approach. It lines up well with one of our core values is accessibility. I want to make sure launch kit's always accessible to local businesses, all the way down to like having a door.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've really learned to lean into when you have to make decisions like that, like the office or Michael. I've learned to lean into your core values, and if you struggle with a tough decision, like make the decision based on your values.
Yeah.
And if you're concrete in those values, it'll lead you in the right direction. So
That is gold right there.
100%.
It is.
when I had to, like when I was looking at office or Michael,
Yeah.
I knew that in the values, like I wanted to build a community, so more than just me. So therefore, Michael lined up well with that.
Right.
And then I knew I wanted the business to be accessible. The office lined up with that. So I knew I needed both. I just didn't know which order to do them in. But those were two of the best decisions I've ever made, was bringing Michael on board and getting that office.
Yeah, that's one of the things I believe that the future is going to look like as we go into the whole AI and virtual like realities and all this crazy stuff. I believe that people are going to want more sense of community in a real aspect way. So I think companies that actually have a door and actually have a place. So we're firm believers of having places where you can actually meet people and actually see them in like brick and mortar and talking to people. And you can't just be all, and I see some real estate companies actually are doing that right now. They're all virtual. And I think with one of the largest investments of your life, we believe that you want a place where people can go and talk to, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I started studying that a lot, like kind of after COVID. I was really fascinated with the whole like hybrid work concept versus like remote work versus traditional. I just found it very interesting, the psychology of doing work in different types of environments, and really found that different types of work should be done in different environments. Something like this conversation here, we're sitting in your beautiful studio. It's designed exactly for this, and it facilitates good conversation.
Right.
We wouldn't do this in a Starbucks, or if we were on Zoom, it wouldn't be quite as personable.
Right. I agree.
This space is the reason your podcast is the way it is.
Well, I actually, for me, one of the things that I'm a communicator naturally, in front of people one-on-one. Yeah. But I'm not good on the phone.
Really?
At all.
Okay.
Like if people, I think there's something to say about being face-to-face with somebody.
Sure.
Talking to them, getting to know them, and I think there's actually an energy and there's a thing there that when if we were just on a Zoom call, I wouldn't get to know you like I'm getting to even know you right now. Right?
Absolutely.
Like I feel like this is much more real and personable and
we like the in-person thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. We debated when we started this, are we going to do it in person or are we going to just all be on Zoom and do it that way? And there's advantages to the doing it the Zoom way because I can get guests from anywhere.
Sure.
Where if I'm doing it here, like they have to travel to me.
Yeah.
You know, and we're young enough yet as a podcast, we haven't had to like get people to come from a long distance yet. But I know that's coming.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
So-
think you made the right call, for
Yeah.
sure. I've done podcasts in person. I've done them virtually.
Yeah.
Like, the ones that are in person always go better. Like,
Yeah.
it's just way better experience for both parties.
Absolutely.
But, however, there's also things that are, in my opinion, are good done virtually.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, we do a lot of in-person meetings. We do a lot of Google Meet meetings.
Yeah.
And then we'll do, you know, solo, headphones on, cup of coffee, deep work.
Yeah.
And I think if you just identify what type of task fits into which bucket,
Yeah.
you know, this task fits into the in-person bucket.
Right.
And if you think that way of identifying which tasks fit into which bucket, I think you'll find
Yeah.
more fulfillment in what you do.
Yeah, I think detailed work, if you have an agenda specific and it's not personable,
Yep.
I think online is the way to do it.
Like a Google Meet call,
100%.
like Zoom call.
Yeah, because it's not personable. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's just like, okay, here's our agenda. We need to talk about this. Let's break it down. Boom, boom, boom.
Totally
It doesn't
Save
matter.
so much time.
Save
Yeah,
time.
like 30
absolutely.
minutes, you guys could get through so much work.
Exactly.
And we use like screen share
Yep.
a ton. So especially in like the web design world, if we ever
I
need
can
to like
imagine.
review material,
Yeah.
being able to like know that we are looking at the same agenda, it's wonderful. So if you
Yeah.
identify a task as like, hey, this would be a great Google Meet call,
Right.
perfect, do it that way. You know, don't
Yeah.
make each other go
Exactly.
in person.
Right.
Exactly.
No, that's good.
We've adopted that into LaunchKit operates on a hybrid model. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're in the office, and Tuesday, Thursday, we're remote. And we actually took it one step further. So we use a scheduling software called Calendly, basically whenever somebody wants to do something with us, we have these links that we can send people, and it scans our calendar's availability to see when we're available.
Right.
So we took it one step further and basically made it so we're only available for meetings on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
Nice.
So Tuesday, Thursday, we don't take meetings.
Nice.
And it's been amazing
Yeah.
because team members are guaranteed to have their Tuesdays, Thursdays to actually get the work done that we're hired to do.
Right.
And they can do that wherever they want. So they could go
Right.
to a coffee shop. They could go to the office if they wanted.
They could stay home.
They could stay home. They could go to the Grand Rapids Chamber.
Right.
And it's been an awesome thing for a company.
Yeah.
I thought about using that. I've talked about that for years now, using that
Calendly?
Yeah. Do you like it?
I love it. I would literally be lost without it. Basically, you go in and you set up different event types. So, for example, we have one for like an in-person meeting. It'd be like a 1 hour in-person meeting.
Right.
And then you set up like a 30-minute Google Meet call. And then so if we wanted to get together, instead of you asking like when I'm available and we go
And
back and forth,
back and forth.
I can send you the link and then it'll scan.
Can you put that link in your email signature?
You could.
Yeah, it's slick.
You could. It'll scan your calendar and see when you're available. So, and it's really cool too because you kind of take control of your own calendar. So you set your working hours. Like I said, we blocked off Tuesday, Thursday.
Right.
So that we're guaranteed no meetings on those days. Team members have loved it. You really feel like you take control of your schedule instead of your schedule taking control of you.
That's awesome.
nice.
You feel way more proactive instead of being reactive.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So, what's your hopes for the future?
Ooh. As it relates to any specific topic
Well, okay, for LaunchKit.
for LaunchKit?
Yeah, let's start with that, and then we'll.
Okay. LaunchKit, you know what, the past few years, we've really just basically established our offering. Like I said, I think it started off as just me and Michael and Frank.
Yeah.
We've evolved into, we have a full team of 5 now.
Well, geez. So
yeah.
you expanded quite a bit
Yep.
in less than 2 years.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy to think
That is
about.
crazy. Yeah.
But it's been really fun though. Every new team member brings a new perspective in. It's really helped us start to build we have very diverse perspectives on what we do. I think each team member has a unique skill set. So like basically we have myself who I do more sales now actually. Sales and then my vlog series is my main kind of focus. And then we have Michael who does all our graphic design. We have Mackenzie who does our web design. And then we have Austin, who does content. And we have Noah, who also does content. And we have Haley, who does social media. So
Right.
we've got quite the crew now.
Yeah.
And yeah, we all bring a unique perspective to the game.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So
Personally,
wait, what?
like where are you going personally? Where
Oh,
you like-
where am I going personally? Well, where's the company going? Basically, what we've done is we've established these memberships, right? So we have the web membership, content membership, graphic membership are out there.
Right.
We're averaging about 2 new members per month. So we're just basically keep growing as we grow more members. We hire more team members. So we have a 10-year business model that basically has membership just increasing, team members increasing, office space increasing.
I guess that's what I was trying to get at. So you're gonna get out of it. So are you gonna get out of that space? You think?
Yeah,
Or own a building, things like that.
We're kind of like capped right now on space. I'm actually kind of back to playing this like chicken and the egg game because now we had this triangle going,
Right.
where if we want to take on more members, we need to hire more team members. If we want to take on more team members, we need a bigger office. If we want to be able to afford a bigger office, we need more members.
Yeah.
So it's like, which lever do you pull first?
Right.
Yeah.
So Q3, we've kind of been in a pattern of we want to do the best possible job we can for our current members and really learn as much as possible about our offering and innovate internally so that we can have the best possible offering before we grow anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I remember hearing somebody told me once, and he was an owner of a company. And he said, it's like having a boat. And then you have all these holes, like this is business.
Oh,
You have
I
all
love
these
this one.
holes. Yeah, you've heard this, and there's all these holes in the boat.
Yep.
But any opportunity you should grow your boat bigger. So you grow it bigger. You're always going to have holes where your boat has holes in it.
Yep.
But as you grow your boat a little bit bigger, you're going to find holes. You plug them up. As soon as they're plugged up, you grow your boat bigger.
Yep.
Eventually, you look back and you're like, okay, I always have holes in my boat.
Sure.
But then now I got a huge cruise size boat. I don't have a fishing boat anymore. I got a
100%.
cruise size boat. So I think as business owners, we always try to have everything perfect. And I think that's one thing you got to get used to pretty quickly as an entrepreneur and running a business is, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is you never feel like you have it together.
Oh, for sure. It's never together. There's always
never.
something to do.
Yeah, there's always something. There's always some problem you're fixing, and I think that's why you're a business owner. You're fixing problems nonstop, right?
Yeah, I love the boat analogy. I think too, like when it was just me and Michael, we're basically in a dinghy that we could turn in any direction, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And these established businesses are a cruise ship.
Right.
And the benefit of being a very small startup is that you can turn in any direction really quickly.
Yes.
You can communicate very quickly, but as that boat grows, you start to turn slower. You have to be a little more methodical about, okay, we want to do this. We're not going to do it today or tomorrow, but maybe next quarter.
Yes.
And it's just a different way of thinking as the organization grows.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's cool. It's how we keep challenging ourselves and learning, new skills.
Definitely. Yeah, for
So
sure.
what about personally?
Personally, I've had a ton of fun running my vlog.
Yeah.
Has had a lot of success. It's been a really cool way to document the rise of LaunchKit. I started about 2 years. No, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I wanted to start documenting what we were doing, and I was honest. It was like we had got the office, and I didn't really have any footage of pre-office.
Yeah.
And I was pissed at myself that I didn't document that.
Yeah.
And I was kind of all right, well, I might as well just start now. So
Yeah.
I started the vlog about 2 years ago. And basically I film it. I do 3 episodes a week. And document whatever we're doing at LaunchKit or Alpine.
Yeah.
So no news anchors or so the whole news anchor thing. You're gonna do some more of that stuff, or
That's my alter ego. That's the other side of the business.
That's kind of fun stuff. I was watching some of that, and that's kind of wild. So how did you meet so Frankie?
Yeah.
How did you get to know him?
So I said the best friend that helped me start LaunchKit.
Yeah.
That was Frankie.
Okay.
Yeah, we were roommates in college.
Okay.
Yep. And so he would always shoot video.
Yep.
I was the business guy.
Okay.
I would package it up and sell it.
Okay.
And we'd split it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That was the original.
So is he still doing stuff with you then?
So we're best buds. I mean, we're going to F1 tomorrow in Chicago for his birthday. We do everything together. But yeah, so eventually, as he started getting business deals coming in through his business, I would help him out with the business side of it, playing the financial manager role.
Right.
And we still did it through LaunchKit for quite a while. because we both operated out of the launch kit office and our desks were next to each other.
Right.
But at the end of 2021, we split it into 2 LLCs.
Okay.
So now we each run different LLCs to help, better accounting, better see what business is doing what. But yeah, he was a, essential part of starting LaunchKit. I'm thankful that he helped me build that business, and I was able to be part of helping him build his.
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
So yeah, the news reporter stuff, we filmed that outside of the LaunchKit office.
That's pretty cool.
Me, Michael, and Michael's the other guy in the video.
You guys have a lot of fun doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
You can tell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all friends, and we're working on something together. So
Yeah.
that was the origin of the news reporter story.
That's pretty cool.
Those ones got a few views.
Yeah, definitely. How many views did those get? Do you know?
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah,
Oh,
those
yeah.
are pretty cool.
Yeah, it's taken off.
Yeah.
But yeah, personally, I really enjoyed doing the vlog series.
Yeah.
It's turned into kind of what I focus on. Not most of my time by any means, but it's the consistency. I really enjoy documenting this. It's been really fun to look back at previous seasons and episodes and be like, oh wow, remember when it was just me, Michael, and Austin? And it's oh, there's the episode where Haley got hired, and it was it's cool to look back on it.
Yeah.
That is cool.
It's also been the leading. It's our biggest lead generation for LaunchKit.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Oh, by far.
Interesting.
Pretty much all of our customers come from the vlog. I got connected to you guys from
Yeah.
somebody was watching the vlog.
Yeah.
That's
So
wild.
pretty much everything I do now comes from the vlog.
That's interesting.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's been really cool. A, it's fun documenting it. B, I'm really into this idea, and I've heard other creators, I didn't come up with this, but this concept of world building,
Yeah.
where you try to essentially document what you're doing and build out a virtual world to the point where your viewers feel like they are a part of it with you. It's they're along for this ride.
Which is great. Yeah, for sure.
I really try to target other small business entrepreneurs because I think it can be very lonely. I went through it. I was lonely doing it. I wish there was watch somebody else going through it as
Right.
well.
Right.
So I try to give insights into that world, and it's connected with people, and it's been pretty well received, and I'm very thankful that people tune into it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's definitely you got a ton of stuff out there.
Thank you.
It's crazy, and I think it's amazing. I think that's where the world is going to go, is where people can know that you can build a sense of community around you.
Oh,
and I think with the digital world, you don't even have to have I think the world before, especially social media, it was who you knew.
Sure.
And you couldn't be creative because it's you had to live within the box of your world.
Absolutely.
But now you could literally do anything. You could say, hey, I'm whatever you're into.
Sure.
And you can create a whole world around just that.
Yeah, because there's other people into that too, which is really cool. It gives you the opportunity to connect with people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it comes down to just being the greatest you can, the greatest you can be, and documenting it and letting people see it. And I always had this philosophy is I think a lot of people will try to get everybody to like them, and you don't have to have everybody like you. You just have to, and I always say in real estate, especially when I'm dealing with my agents, they'll get frustrated with dealing with somebody maybe that didn't like them or something. And I go, the issue you run into is you're going to go out of your way to make that person happy, extremely big leaps and bounds. And this person's probably maybe not even a nice person.
Sure.
But you want to make sure that they're happy. But the issue you run into is they're going to introduce you to their friends because now they're happy and their friends are like them. So people, it's kind of say people that, I don't want to say anybody sucks, but people that suck will introduce you to people that suck.
Yeah.
And then your whole world will be around people that suck because you went out. Instead of if you're just genuinely you're just genuinely you.
Appreciate that.
So what happens is you're going to get introduced to somebody.
Sure.
And then if I don't like you, and I introduce you to, and you do whatever you can to please me, I'm going to introduce you to people like me.
Yeah.
Because guess who hangs out with me? People like me.
Yeah.
And right. So then eventually you're around all these people that you don't want to, that don't align with your views or what you like or whatever it may be. I don't know, whatever your thing is. You can. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Am I driving that home at all?
No, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
In filming all these vlog episodes too, I've really found out things I like. If you watch the vlog over a long period of time, there's consistencies. So I always am making my coffee. I love making my coffee, or playing golf is a consistency.
Yeah.
You learn what are these things you're really into. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to Apple tech stuff.
That's cool.
Right.
So there's these constants.
You're a coffee guy?
Oh yeah.
So I have a friend that travels all over the place.
Really?
And he says by far his favorite coffee, hands down, is Madcap.
I believe it.
And I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's out of all the coffees, it's right here in our town.
I was mind blown. I have a coffee table book in my apartment.
Yeah.
It's called Brew. It's all about how to brew better coffee at home.
Yeah.
It's like how to use a Chemex, AeroPress, French press, all these type of things.
Right.
And this is like you buy this book on Amazon. This is not like a local thing by any means.
Yeah.
So I'm reading it. It's talking about like origins of coffee beans, like how to brew things, yada, yada, yada. Get to the end of the book, and it's like this author's top 10 roasteries in the United States. And like number 3 was Madcap.
It's crazy.
And I was like, whoa, wait a second. That's like the place like
It's
2
right
blocks
down the
away
street
from
from
my
me. I can go there.
apartment.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, like they're kind of a big deal. And then I learned a little bit more about the business, and I was very impressed by what they do.
Yeah, they are kind of a big deal, and you don't think of it because, I mean, you never think about the person right next to you sometimes,
No.
right? And they're like, oh, they're making waves. Like, that's crazy.
They put a lot of work. They do a wonderful thing for the coffee community. So it's pretty
Right.
cool if you like look into their backstory.
For sure.
Very neat. So yeah, I plan on keep the vlog rolling, keep Launch Kit rolling,
Nice.
keep Alpine rolling. It's kind of my 3 things I got going right now.
What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think I'd have to go back to like when we were talking about like putting yourself in the room, like put yourself in an opportunities to succeed. I think tiny habits can compound over time. So doing small, good things make big change over time.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I think of like 2 main things. So like we talked about like you going to the economic club and you go in AMA. Like
Right.
put yourself, like we both had to get up off our butt and like go to this.
Do something.
Yeah. And by doing these things, it's not immediately successful,
Right.
but it is a part of the greater story.
Right.
Right.
Is doing those things. And I guess the other thing would be like back to like the small habits. You know, unfortunately in our world, anything that's good for you is difficult.
Yeah.
And most things that are bad for you are easy.
That's 100%.
And it's easier to sit on the couch and watch Netflix than it is to go to the gym.
That's all.
Always going to be easier. It's
Right.
never going to be easier to go to the gym.
Right.
And it's easier to order fast food instead of making a nutritious meal.
Right.
It's easier to go on TikTok than to read a book. Like all the easy things are bad for you, unfortunately. So it's always going to require discipline.
There's no pain, there's no gain, right?
Yeah. It's always going to require the discipline to
Right.
get the outcomes you're looking for.
Right.
I just recently read a book. It was actually not recently, but in the last year, and it was called Atomic Habits. Have you ever heard of it?
That's where I got that from.
Yeah. I kind of figured that much. If anybody's watching this, it's a book I highly recommend people
Absolutely.
reading.
Habit stacking.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
because there's sometimes you don't want to do something, but
Sure.
it's like, oh, I know every day I gotta wake up and brush my teeth.
Yep.
Well, if I want to brush my teeth, maybe I should. I don't know, whatever your thing you're stacking. So
Yeah.
the idea behind habit stacking is you take something that you don't want to do and you add it to something you have to do, and eventually, it kind of ends up being
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I found that like it works. Okay, like you go to bed. Let's say like let's take it. A good day starts the night before, right? So let's say like you're in bed and you decide to like have tea and you read and you go to bed at a reasonable hour.
Right.
Okay, then you wake up feeling better, so you're more likely to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you're on to work on
Right.
time. I've also seen it go the other way, where let's say like I might go out and have a few drinks and stay out late, and then go to bed late,
Right.
and then you sleep in, and then
Right.
you wake up and you watch TV.
Then you feel like crap. So
And you feel like crap. Like it can go the other way,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
So easily.
And so whenever I feel that happening, I'll write it in my journal.
Yeah.
Like if I like realize like I'm going the wrong way,
Yeah.
I'll write it down. And then when
and
I
I think
write it down, it brings
everybody can
awareness.
go to the wrong way at
Oh yeah,
times.
happens to all of us.
And
Yeah.
so you got to mentally be able to check yourself and say, wait a minute.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really all that matters. Like you should
Right.
go out and like have fun in your life and like go on vacation and like do things out
Absolutely.
of your routine. But if you
Yeah.
feel yourself getting away from those good habits, just write it down and be like, okay, now I'm gonna go back to doing
Yeah.
good stuff.
And don't beat
Right.
yourself up over it.
Oh, for sure.
When you do that,
For
it's
sure.
like, okay, this was bad.
Yep.
Writing it down so I remember.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that
Actually,
again.
I think that's really good information, what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's saying, okay, yeah, like I may have made a mistake, but I'm going to get over it, and I'm going to give myself grace for that.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to change it now.
Yes.
I don't have to keep going down the path,
Yeah.
right?
That's like the fulcrum point. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's like the pivot point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
I have a good friend that she's going through some stuff right now, and she just can't get herself out of it because she's beating herself up over so many things, and she just won't let it go.
Sure.
You know?
I feel like that's a good example of like you have to start with really small things.
Yeah.
Like for example, like let's just start by like go to bed at 9:30.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you did that, now it should be a little bit easier to get up.
Yep.
You know, have a good breakfast.
Yeah.
Brush your teeth.
Right.
Like start with like the basics.
Yeah.
And I feel like that will lead
Yes.
to bigger things. Like
Yeah.
you're not going to achieve the bigger thing overnight.
You're not going to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to change my entire life like tomorrow morning, and I'm going to be, you know, you're just not going to do that.
Sure.
No, but the
And
world tries
you
to
set
tell us
yourself-
that we can do that by hitting a lotto or
Right.
by doing something. We hear about these stories all the time where the world's trying to convince us that
You can
something.
set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
And then when you fail at that, then you think to yourself, you're running the story in your head, well, I failed. Well, I'm not going to be able to do
Sure.
it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know? So I think there's just little increments.
Yeah,
at a
that's huge
time.
advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So-
I think it's good advice, and to me, I feel like that's what people need to hear is that you don't have to have it all figured out
No,
perfectly. It's just these small little steps,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, we came to the part of our show with
Okay.
the message in the bottle.
Okay.
And I think you've watched some of the episodes.
have.
So you've seen the drill, what happens. There's
Okay.
a message in there from our last guest.
Okay. Can I go ahead and crack it open?
You
Yeah,
can
crack
crack
it
it open.
What do we got in here?
We have no idea what it says.
They say if you listen to the bottle, you'll hear the ocean because it sits in the ocean all the time. Just kidding.
I think
No,
so.
no, that's not how that works.
No, I think it has to be a seashell.
Oh, all right. It was still funny to act like that.
Yeah.
All right. What things in life keep you up at night? Why do these things keep you up? The first thing that comes to mind is the like entrepreneurial mindset of feeling like there's always something I could be working on. It's really tough to turn it off and just go to bed. So I feel like a lot of times I'm constantly thinking about what I should be doing. It's like you just shared the story about being on vacation and like the last few days, you're
Yeah.
already thinking about what's on that to-do list. So yeah, the to-do list will keep me up at night. One thing I've found to help with this though is, first of all, I'm a huge lists person. So I take a lot of notes and I write things down. And then I put the to-do list on my Google Calendar as tasks.
Yep.
So I can put them at a certain day and time. So like I'll put to do something tomorrow. So it's on my calendar for tomorrow.
That's
and
good.
I'm not worried about having to do it now because I know it has a time and a place.
Right.
It's not just on some random to-do list.
Right.
So
So you have a plan.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a
that's
big
good.
planner.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I do the same thing. If I know that even something like call this person back,
Sure.
I'll put it on my calendar.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Because then it's like, I'm a big believer that our brains are really good at coming up with ideas, but they're terrible at cataloging them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we basically have to use technology to build a second brain.
Yeah.
And that second brain is where you can keep track of all the things you're responsible for so that you have the bandwidth to actually come up with new ideas.
Right.
Because if we just tried to memorize everything, we'd never have bandwidth to come up with anything new.
Right.
You'd be trying to keep track of phone numbers in your head.
Right.
But
Yeah.
instead, we have an app on our phone that keeps track of it.
Right.
So we're basically just outsourcing these tasks.
Yes.
And whenever people always ask a lot in the marketing world lately about like, oh, like, do you think like AI is going to replace all your jobs? And my thought on it is that, you know, the dishwasher was invented
Yeah.
and like chefs still exist. And like,
Yeah.
that didn't take away our jobs. You know, the
Right.
tractor
It'll
was
make
invented.
it easier.
Yeah.
I think being creative is going to be more valuable in the
Sure.
future.
Yeah.
You know, I think it goes back to, I think what could help is I am surprised that I have not found an AI company that does this kind of like you always say, Calendarly or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Is where I have done this with ChatGPT where I've loaded my whole week calendar into a prompt into ChatGPT.
Okay.
And then what I'll do is I'll say, now put in there, I want to work out 4 days this week, but I want it to be before this time.
Oh,
or,
okay.
hey, I want it to be, can you put in there date days with my kids?
Sure.
And it'll actually go through and like find times for you because it sees your whole calendar, and so you can literally give it prompts. And I'm surprised that like there's no AI software that does that. Do you see what I'm saying? So
I do see what you're saying.
So you're saying I'll put in there 10 minutes every single day to whatever, and then it'll just automatically spit out time. So let's say I sit down with you and like, hey, I'd like to grab coffee with you. So hey, calendar, what is a good time to blank with drive times in there or whatever it may be.
That's a good point. I would be interested in adding on another layer of what times a day you like to do certain tasks.
Right.
So let's say I wanted to sit down and
That's
have coffee.
slick.
Personally, I would prefer to do it in the afternoon.
Yep.
Because in the morning, I want to stay focused on doing my to-do list.
100%.
Whereas in the afternoon, I already got my to-do list done, so I would love to sit down and talk to you.
Right.
But if we sat down at 8 a.m., I'm going to be thinking about, like, all right, I got to do this,
I gotta
this,
get
this.
out of here because I got
Yeah.
this stuff.
But you could probably have those in the prompt,
You could,
like pre-built.
100%.
So
It'd be like in your profile. It'd be
Yeah.
like, all right, it knows that Kevin likes to get his most important things done from 7 to noon.
yeah,
Yeah.
it could
Okay.
actually start to learn it too.
It could.
Yeah.
There's the machine learning kicking in.
Yeah.
All right, we should invent that.
Again, I have so many great ideas.
We just gave away that one for free, too.
Yeah, for real.
Well, that one's gone.
Here
We'll
we
see
go.
how-
it's
Yeah.
good.
If
Somebody else
You can
hear
pay
this
me if you want to.
Yeah, at least like a royalty deal or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we do have evidence to prove it.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
video
we could say
recorded
that
and
was our
timestamped.
idea.
Yeah.
You owe us.
I bet you I have one of those a day, so I'm okay if
Okay.
somebody takes some of them.
Awesome. So if somebody is watching this and they want to get a hold of you
Okay.
because they need some marketing stuff done and this whole concept sounds really good to them, where do they get a hold of you? How can they find you?
I'd probably recommend checking out LaunchKit's site.
Okay.
We spent a ton of time building out LaunchKit's site to actually be very transparent about what we do and what we don't do. So if you visit the site, you'll see our services, you'll see our membership packages, you'll see our pricing, like everything's on there.
Good.
And we have a really cool inquiry form. It's like an interactive like Q&A that you get to
Okay.
have.
Oh, that's cool.
And then that data all comes into our CRM system.
Awesome.
On the personal side, Instagram, Kevin Camus, TikTok, Kevin Camus,
Yeah.
YouTube, Kevin Camus.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we post on all those platforms.
And with that, because this could get seen anywhere in the United States, so you don't
Sure.
need people just from this area.
Ooh,
You
that's
could
a good
take
question.
you could take people from anywhere, right?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So, yeah, LaunchKit's web membership,
Mm-hmm.
we do nationwide.
Okay.
So we have members in quite a few different states
Perfect.
because we can do that one remote.
Yeah.
Graphic design world, graphic membership as well as logo design. We also do that nationwide.
Perfect.
Clients all over the country. At this time, the photo video content membership is local. You
Okay.
have to be within 30 miles of the
Okay.
LaunchKit office just because we're there 1, 2, or 3 times a month. So
Yeah.
that's our local offering, and then the other
Yes.
2 are nationwide.
Awesome.
That's cool. And then
Absolutely.
they can always just walk right in your building, right?
There you go. That's the
Yeah.
accessibility part.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Good
Sweet.
stuff.